Paul, I adjourned the meeting without calling for public input. So I know that we're a bit over time, but I should probably just ask if there's any public input in regards to the committee of the whole items, and my apologies for missing that. Will you please come forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki Logan's committee participant on the Community Center Committee. Thanks, Gabriel, for bringing that forward. You heard me hustling back there. Yes, I really want to reiterate the importance of looking at the other pieces, because there's some low-hanging fruit here that could be taken advantage of almost immediately to fill some needs that have come forward from the various interested parties and from the community as a whole. A couple of examples that were not discussed that I want to bring forward is that the Parks and Trails Committee has just completed the community consultation and made recommendations around John Phillips Park. I was behind the cash register at the community thrift shop on Saturday, and there was a visitor from Courtney and Souk shopping in the store who needed a picnic bench, a public picnic bench. I had to rack my brain to think of a public picnic bench that I could send her to, and it got. I sent her to the park on Beaton, Broomhill Park. It was the only example I could think of. Thank you. So yes, implementing some of those simple recommendations like picnic benches in parks, bathrooms, water access, and then as well the other one that didn't make it to this report, and just a reminder that this is a draft report, is that there are conversations happening at the school district and with Sea Park School District and so on around makerspace for the arts and for other activities, and the importance I want to put forward of the district participating with the school district and Sea Park and other players in the community for better public access to our schools. Because I think there's a lot of potential there, and those conversations are going to be long and hard, and there needs to be some municipal participation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loggins. Are there any other speakers for the Committee of the Whole?
Hi, Ellen Lourdes. And Ebony, if you wouldn't mind just lifting up that age-friendly community, that's really kind of the focus that we were looking at as far as being a community center, with a community hall being on the left-hand side. You see a community center there, the library being next to the Legion. There's a seniors complex there in the corner, and then the parking in the back. At the very back where you see the barns, that's Ayr Manor that we look at. And the center, down the center there, that is where Eustis Road would be closed at Otter Point. So that, and then there's a center built there. That'd be the new town center built around the community, but it's the new old town center, really. And that vision, it came to us through the health community. Actually, Councillor Casper's wife was the one that asked for this to be drawn up, and of course she's a long-time member of this community, and she recognized the vision already, and I think that just speaks a lot to this community. And the other question that about the Sioux Community Hall, about the siding, I did talk to one of the Sioux Community Association members, and the original siding, the cedar siding, is underneath that plastic siding. Thank you.
Any other speakers for the Committee of the Whole? Sorry, Ms. Brooke, you just need to turn the microphone on. Thank you.
Mary Brooke, West Shore Voice News. I just wanted to make reference in the Sioux Community Centre Advisory Committee report. They're referring to statistics from Stats Canada and CRD, which probably uses Stats Canada figures. And so just a note, as was reported in our paper on Friday, there were a lot of households missed in the census in Sioux, and the Canada Post Maine thinks that it could be possibly due to a lot of the addresses still having V0S on them. And they may have gone to other communities. So if our town doesn't get a complete coverage, then statistics like this are sort of less meaningful. And they're figuring it's about 5.5% that got missed. So that could be caught up if people are made aware, and our newspaper will do our best to let people know that they can go online. And if they do go online, then they have to actually phone as well to get a 16-digit number to be able to do it. But it's worth council noting that, because you make a lot of decisions based on what Stats Can brings forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Brooke. Any other comments from the public regarding the committee of the whole? Seeing none, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Parkinson. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch into the regular council. Regular council meeting of May the 9th to order, please. And we'll ask council, please, for approval of the agenda with the inclusion of the new business supplementary information on the yellow pages. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Before we get into the agenda, though, there's an announcement that I would like to make this evening. It is my pleasure to share with everyone that Council has unanimously endorsed the hiring of Ms. Teresa Sullivan in the capacity of our Chief Administrative Officer. So I'd like to send a formal warm welcome and thank you for your efforts to date, as well as those of the leadership team. And we look forward to working with you over the balance of our term and for you a little bit beyond us. So welcome.
Thank you very much. That's good news.
All right. Okay, so on that note, we'll move into adoption of council meeting minutes. April 25th, the regular council meeting. Are there any errors, questions, or comments? Move the minutes by Councillor Parkinson and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Just like to raise to your attention here, there was a bit of a change with how we are noted in here. It says on here, you'll see council present, where for councillors we're just sort of abbreviated. Now I have asked that it be sort of put back to our full name stated with our position. Is everyone in agreement with that, or do you like the abbreviated version? I like it written out, but that's just me. I don't care either way. It's fine too. Councillor Raylan Loggins?
Yes, I would prefer it identifying positions as well as the full name, just because it allows for those times when people are acting, that you can see from the minutes who was acting and roles. So I would certainly support going back.
Councillor Loggins?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say, and just add that if anyone from outside the community is looking at these, then they have more information on that as well.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on the minutes? All those in favor of adoption? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Next item is April 27th, the SUC Program for the Arts Committee meeting minutes. Moved by Councillor Parkinson. Seconded by Councillor Casper. Discussion on the minutes. I note in the minutes, maybe it's later on here. No, it's later on in the reports. Any discussion? All those in favor of adoption? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next we're right into our delegation portion. We have two this evening, each for a 5-minute time limit. Our first one is D1, KPMG, our audited financial statements, and within the package are the draft audited financial statements. So I would like to welcome our auditor this evening. Welcome and thank you. We look forward to your presentation.
Good evening, Your Worship, councillors. Pleased to report that the audit for the District of Sauk for the year ended December 31, 2015 is essentially complete. We've reported to council, and we've met with council to discuss the issues that were raised. Pleased to report that the 3 opinions that were required to provide as part of the audit, which includes the opinion on the financial statements, that they present fairly the financial position and results of the district for the last year. And we also report on the compliance with the School Act, as well as the reporting under the provincial homeowner grant plans. Those reports are all clean opinions. We have discussed a number of issues, and we're comfortable that the response from management appropriately addresses the matters raised, none all that significant, quite frankly, which was nice. And we did make some comments in reporting to council that the area of some of the development programs and the administrative processes that are being followed have followed some recommended changes that we've advised last year, and we were pleased to see that those changes were implemented, and that element of the development program seems to be operating effectively. It was good to see. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have with respect to the reporting.
Any comments or questions from members of council? Councillor Casper?
So is it fair to say that you saw some improvements? Leading question.
We did see some improvement in the processes around the development permitting process and the communication system, particularly around accounting, GIS, and the development processes.
Anything else? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Okay, our next delegation this evening, D2, is Mr. Terrence Martin regarding the boat launch operations contract. There's also materials related in the yellow package of information here.
Pardon me, Your Worship, there is
Yes.
a motion that's in with that report.
Pardon me?
There's a motion that's in with that report from the previous D1.
Oh, pardon me. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't load my... I was having technical difficulties. Just bear with me, Mr. Martin. There is a motion, and that is that Council receive the draft 2015 audited financial statements for information. Moved by Councillor Parkinson, seconded by Councillor Loggins. All those in favor of receipt? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Martin, welcome.
Thanks. 5 minutes is going to be really short here, so I'll burn right through this. On June 1st of last year, there was a council direction issued to basically get with staff and produce a proposal that council could vote on. So needless to say, I was somewhat surprised that in response to my application for a special use permit for that derby this year, the next day I received a notice of cancellation of my contract. And that derby is there's a dependency between that contract and that derby. I've seen the staff submission, and clearly I disagree. In fact, the reason we're here is that the staff have not even had the time to discuss the operation of the facility, much less actually do it. Nobody's explained how union staff are going to produce the results I have by staffing the facility at 5 a.m. through weekends and holidays and early mornings, late afternoon spot checks. There's no magic to it. If it's not staffed and monitored during those hours, people won't pay. Revenues will go back down to where they started, and district costs will start running up. There's a lot more to this than emptying a parking meter once in a while, and as far as I know, not a single violation ticket has been issued in the 2 years I've been involved. There are also a lot of intangibles that are dependent on the contract. That derby's one of them. Case in point, that the consultants derby basically burned out the volunteers and was going to fold this year, so I offered my support. It's raised $116,000 for salmon enhancement to date, over $160,000 in prizes, and with my support, we've incorporated as a society, put it on a rolling 3-year plan, and raised the single biggest cash donation to date from Victoria Fish and Game Protective Association, to be directed to the Charters River Salmon Interpretive Centre. Rather than fold up, this year promises to be one of the biggest for the Derby, and the Pacific Salmon Foundation has calculated that every dollar put towards salmon enhancement returns $7 in salmon. There's even a connection to our Timber West Access Agreement, which some of you may have seen and heard in the news related to the leach discussion, in which we've raised a $12,500 budget for this year. And we have a saying that people care about what they know about, and one purpose of access is to let people experience the salmon life cycle upstream from where they come from. In 5 minutes, I can't begin to make out the case for why this contract should be maintained, but I'll direct your attention to the district's own reports. Your material should include the previous staff review of the contract. It's 127 pages long, so I'll just go straight to 3 of them. There's performance measures set out. It's actually at page 30 of the Adobe paging, but it's numbered 27 in the thing. And one of the performance measurements is the hiring of a contractor or a boat launch operator. And there's a number of others listed, and they should be gone through carefully. There's also a repayment provision in the infrastructure grant. And that's it's actually numbered page 467, but it's also numbered page 32, and it's at page 36 of the Adobe numbering, if you're looking for it, clause 11B. And basically what that says is if the district raises more money than it costs to operate, they have to pay back a portion of that grant. There's also a prediction by the former CAO at page 58, which is page 62, that says this: some municipalities operate it themselves, but the notion of having to provide staff means it would most likely operate at a loss, making this option unfavorable. Other dependencies that have developed through the operations include a minimum 320 hours of student summer job employment, a Royal Road student project later this year, and we're currently discussing hosting a salmon festival. There's also the matter of the $5,500 fish cleaning station that doesn't belong to the district, and we're heading into peak season. My mandate to date has been clear: increase the launch revenues, which I've done by a factor of 5. It appears that staff would like to expand that mandate to reduce or eliminate the costs to the district, which is what I originally proposed if you look back at the proposal going into the tender process or their RFP review process. I've made a number of recommendations in the 2014-15 report, which is also included in your material. And this year is just more of the same. It's too early. I haven't produced the report yet, but it's basically more of the same. It's ditto on the 2014-15 one in terms of my recommendation. Revenue's off just slightly this year because of the lousy weather, but it looks like it might pick up. So my ask is that Council directs staff to put in the necessary time with me to gain an understanding of the full scope of operations and enter into negotiations, as was directed last June, to bring back a contract Council can vote on. And perhaps a delegate from Council can sit in on those discussions. In the interim, the contract should continue as is month to month. As I said, there are dependencies, and I've made some long sort of term commitments, that Derby being a big one. There's literally hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars invested in that, on the somewhat assurance that this contract would be likely to continue, that there's no intention to change the direction. So that's my submission. Thanks very much. One additional one, everybody as a special guest is entitled to buy a ticket in that Derby. It's organized around the engineering community. I understand that Councillor Pearson won't be here, but perhaps Mayor Tate can put a fishing rod in the hand of the little guy and start him off right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin.
Any questions arising?
Councillor Loggins?
Sorry, I'm just a little slow today, but thanks for your thanks for your presentation. I'm just trying to wrap my head around why the Derby would not be happening.
They basically burned out the volunteers, and they didn't have anybody left to organize it. So that's when they approached me. There's a lot of work.
How many volunteers?
There is a core group of about 4 people, 3 of who basically told the others that they couldn't participate, and the workload is simply too much for the one. So we've brought back a board of directors in the society, so we have 5 people involved. There is a big group of background volunteers that come up as through the engineering firms that we reach out to, but it takes that core group to drive this Derby forward and actually make it happen. It's a big event. So
I understand, yeah. So how is that connected to the contract?
When they approach, it's connected to the contract because the contract allows me to use my time to do those types of things. Like I said, it's literally hundreds of hours. I've thrown quite a bit of money at it, direct money. So that was one of the discussions I had with them in order to do that with all of the other things. Like I sit on the board of directors of Victoria Fish and Game. So I operate the contract basically as a cost recovery model, basically. There's not a huge amount of money there. The numbers are on the paper there. But it serves to provide sort of off-the-books funding for all of these other things that are important to the district, and backcountry access and that participation with Victoria Fish and Game. The purpose of building that facility, and I've said this before, it's at least $3 million, I think, is into that thing, was to bring people to Sooke. Maybe if they came here, they might like it. Maybe they're going to buy a piece of property, feedback. But the whole point of it was to bring people to Sooke. So in order to make that happen, it has to be marketed, and really that's what I'm doing through my activities on these. They're strategically placed activities, and the Derby is a very good one because it accesses a demographic of affluent outdoorsy professionals and brings around 300 or so of them to town, and those 13 or so engineering firms and all of the people attached to those. So developers on one side, proving authority staff on the other side with the engineers in the middle. So that would be an example of the kind of thing that
So
we're leveraging from.
Just to clarify, you're saying that, just so I can wrap my head around it, without you being part of the society and directing these 4 volunteers, there would be no Derby.
That was it, yeah. They told me they were going to wrap it up unless I either came up with an idea or something, but they approached me. I'd been involved with it before, and I said, well, for God's sake, don't do that. Let's talk about it. So we're carrying on. And we have a 3-year plan now. So this also relates to the Prestige. The Victoria Fish and Game booked in there for a 2-day retreat, so that's another element of my involvement with them. Victoria Fish and Game, being the common ground here, has now kicked in a bunch of money. It's around $4,000. It's the biggest single cash donation to that Derby. So I have this network of relationship that's all hooked to I wouldn't call it a hobby, but that's the relationship. It comes through me, and the operation of that facility is what drives that.
Thank you. Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thanks very much.
Okay. All right, next we're going to move into our public question and comment period. We do have the continuation of a development variance permit, so there may be members of the public and the applicant that are here tonight to clarify items in regards to RA1. So I think if there's any comments or questions in regards to that, we'll wait for that particular item to come forward and just use this as an opportunity for any other council business that's on the agenda. Okay, so if I could welcome anyone forward, thank you.
Gail Hall, 2517 Souk River Road. I would like to take a look at RA5. I don't have a problem with appointing another member of staff. After all, we have more staff than we have members of the public. What I have a problem with here is the same as the one that I had with the appointment to the Director of Corporate Services. As far as I know, by the district bylaw, unless they've changed it without saying so, those positions are not in the district bylaw. So if you're going to you say directly in the staff report that they may, by bylaw, establish other officer positions. And so in order for this appointment to take place, you have to, I believe, you have to amend your bylaw 398 and put that position in there, as well as the Director of Corporate Services, if that position's going to stay. Because bylaw 398 establishes the various officer positions for the District of Souk. And you've got right in your staff report, 146A would account for this, and B would have to be done before you put in the new officer position, as far as I see, because that's what it says. May by bylaw establish other officer positions, and that's what you're trying to do tonight. Not that I've ever been impressed that things are ever done right, but that's the way it is.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Other members of the public?
Thank you very much, Mayor and councillors. I'm Loretta Deutscher, 7026 Wright Road. It is a concern that I have about being green with the new agendas. I'm just hoping that council, in their wisdom, will find a way to be able to present agendas and packages at a more reasonable price. I believe the price to have this whole package is something in the order of $50 odd. It's quite a price, and not everyone in today's world has access to computers, even though there are free computers down at the library. Some people don't have library cards, and getting to the library is an issue. So I just hope that Council will consider a way to provide a minimum number of agenda packages to those people who may require them because they can't obtain them in the normal way. I believe that charging $57 is another barrier to people being able to come and be knowledgeable of what's happening at our tables. So thank you very much for this presentation, and probably a little bit off the topic, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Deutscher. Can we withhold the clapping, please? Thank you. Other members of the public?
Thank you. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I'm a bit late. I'm wanting
We'll
to
just
comment.
need your name and address, please.
You're absolutely right. Again, Diane Bernard, 2108 Penang Road here in Souk. And I'm just wondering, I see RA1 on the development permit for the Goodmere Road. Is it appropriate for me to speak or raise questions, or is that another time?
We'd like to actually wait until that item comes forward for discussion, and then I'll open up the microphone at that time for that item. But you're
Thank
welcome
you.
to speak to any other item on the agenda.
No, that's why I'm here.
Okay.
For that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Other members of the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the agenda then. Our first item is item B1, bylaw number 633, zoning amendment bylaw 600-23-7105 Grant Road West. And this recommendation is that bylaw number 633, zoning amendment bylaw 600-23-7105 Grant Road West be adopted. Moved by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Any discussion on adoption? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next item is B2, bylaw number 637. And that is that bylaw number 637, zoning amendment bylaw 600-25-7109 Grant Road West be adopted. Moved adoption by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Any discussion on adoption? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is, yes, Councillor Ray.
Yeah, I'm not sure that when you read it, whether you said 600-23 for 7109 Grant Road West, or is it supposed to be 600-25?
It should be 25, and if I said 23, I think,
Yes, I believe you did say 23, but that's what's.
yes, that is correct. Our corporate officer? I might have said 23 and read 25.
So you're talking about B1 or B2?
I'm talking about 7109 Grant Road. I believe Mayor Tate read it from page 47, and it read 600-23, but on page 49 it reads 600-25.
I think if the mayor just wants to clarify that members of council knew they were voting on the recommendation as written, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be a motion to that effect?
No, I think
Or-
as long as the councilors
Yeah.
know that you meant this and not the other.
Okay. That's everyone's understanding? Okay, thank you, Councillor Ray, for the clarification there. No, you're absolutely correct. I think it's just what I was looking at. Okay, item B3, bylaw number 635,
Move adoption.
Second.
Okay, and that is that council adopt bylaw number 635, Sucor Sewer Specified Area Amendment, bylaw 147-24, Sucor Sewer Specified Area Proposed Boundary Adjustment for 7105 and 7109 Grant Road West. And that's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next is item B4, bylaw number 639, our 5-year financial plan and property tax rate bylaw, and there is a recommendation here. Perhaps is there clarity from our finance director on this?
Yes, thank you. So the financial plan bylaw, we made the changes that were talked about at the last meeting. The amounts for 2017 through 2020 that are in the actual bylaw were not reflective of the plan that was attached to. It's linked to a document, and because of the Fire Commission changes, that those years didn't get updated. But so all this is doing is making sure that those agree to the plan that came forward. So.
Question to our corporate officer. With the recommendation, would these be two separate motions then? That there be one motion that outlines 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
And then a second motion for
Basically,
this.
because you have to rescind third reading, so you can make the amendment, and then you'll move the amendment, and then move third reading after.
Okay. Is there any questions from council on the report? Councillor Casper?
So we would do that for each bylaw, correct?
Okay. Okay, so the first motion then would then be to rescind as stated here, and that is item 1, that council rescind third reading of bylaw number 639, 5-year financial plan bylaw 2016, and then 2, amend it all flows in one motion then.
No, I would actually do them all three separately.
I see. Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Question from Councillor Loggins.
I don't know exactly where or when I should ask this because we've got a lot going on, but when we went through the Fire Commission budget, I had a few questions that I wasn't able to get answered until after whatever. I'm wondering if there are answers yet, or is this the wrong time to ask that?
A question to our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, through the mayor. We don't have answers to those questions yet. The performance audit began today, and I expect it'll be done in probably 6 weeks, so we'll be able to have those answers for you then.
Thank you.
Councillor Casper?
I'll move the amendment.
I think the first one has already been moved and seconded, so we're just speaking to that, to the rescinding.
All right, okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, the next one then is amend bylaw number 639, 5-year financial plan bylaw 2016 by reducing the property taxes and other municipal purposes lines by $25,000 each in each of the years for 2017 to 2020.
I'll move the amendment.
Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any questions or comments in regards to that? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And then the third one is that council give third reading to bylaw number 639, 5-year financial plan bylaw 2016 as amended. Moved by Councillor Ray.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Casper. Any discussion on this? All those in favor of third reading? Opposed? Councillor Loggins is opposed. Okay, the next one then is that council rescind third reading of bylaw number 640, property tax rate bylaw 2016. Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Number 2, amend bylaw number 640, property tax rate bylaw 2016 by changing the rates for Road D, Regional Hospital District, as outlined in this report.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And thirdly, that council give third reading to bylaw number 640, property tax rate bylaw 2016 as amended. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Ray. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, so thank you. So I understand that a special council meeting has been scheduled and set for this coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Is it 6 o'clock? 6:30? Sorry, I just wanted clarity on that because I had,
I don't have my yellow sheet.
mine's not with me either.
Madam Mayor, it has 6 o'clock.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock for this Wednesday. Is everyone available to attend that meeting? Okay, I may be calling on the acting mayor, Councillor Berger, to chair that meeting. I'm not certain that I can get here in time, so rather than disrupt it and run in late and require a seat change, perhaps if you could be available and ready to schedule that meeting, and if you have any questions, just contact our corporate officer. Okay, just want to make sure that we have the time, and I didn't have the time straight, but everyone else does, so that's great. Okay, so we're going to move into our reports requiring action, and this brings us to RA1, the development permit and development variance permit application for 6689 Goodmere Road, Lot 1, Section 10, Soup District, Plan 26588. There are I'll draw council's attention to the yellow page submissions. There's some supplementary information that's included in here. And I'll also ask that our planner give a presentation, and then after we receive the presentation, we'll just open the microphone to any comments or questions. But what I would like to draw council's attention to this evening is the feedback to the questions that we had put forward, rather than the whole report as a whole. What we're looking for is how different items that we had are now resolved. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so tonight we're here to look at a development permit and development variance permit for 6689 Goodmere Road. The applicants are here tonight, Gwen and Edwin Fisher of Pure Element Spa and Hair Salon, and they plan to build a new garden center and greenhouse to add commercial retail space to their subject property. Please note that this application has received approximately 20 letters of support and 1 letter opposing the project since our last public input meeting on April 25th. The applicants are seeking authorization for the DP with 2 variances. Approval of both variances would enhance the overall site by providing for the creation of a required wheelchair public accessible outdoor courtyard gathering space, the storage of rainwater for reuse in the garden center, and an efficient neighborhood compatible use of the land under its zone capacity that is sensitive to the surrounding R1 residential zones. Since the last meeting, sorry, I'm just flying through, I'm reading and not giving you guys the tour. Hang on. Technical difficulty.
It appears to be dead.
It's dead. I'll just continue reading, if that's okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, keep, you can go right to proposed site plan. Oh, there we go. Okay, since our last meeting, the applicants have worked to meet and exceed the parking requirement of 1 additional space as required by the District Zoning Bylaw 400. It hasn't changed since the last time, but I just wanted to reiterate that they've provided that additional space. They've worked to alleviate their neighbors' concerns with regard to rainwater, as all runoff will be retained and reused on site as per the existing stormwater management plan and the revised report provided. They've worked to clarify the issue of the required wheelchair access for commercial public space as outlined by the BC Building Code, and they've worked also to try and listen to their neighbors' concerns and revise plans that provide screening and privacy. So just in summary, this is sort of the overall checklist of things that they did work towards, and I'll just address them quickly as we go through the next couple of slides. The site plan, go one more. The site plan provides an overview of the location of structures. It gives some screening, landscaping. It shows the access. The arrow down the left side shows the access route, and parking and general layout of the site in order to best maximize the use of the property, particularly in relation to access location of the greenhouse as well, so that we're not obstructing views, and they're trying to pay attention to the neighbors' privacy as well. Other things that are just shown in this picture that I think I kind of overlooked or didn't get into as much detail last time are the fact that you can see that there is more landscaping, and you'll see in subsequent slides that fencing is provided. I've also shown more that the rain and stormwater are kind of a cohesive unit in this rather than two separate ones. And what we called a platform before was partially my problem, my fault, because I saw it as that structure and negated to mention that it was there because they need public access back there because it is a commercially zoned property. So it is primarily the access issue more so than a platform, and they've addressed that here. So that's why we're requesting the variance for the public access to the back of the property in order to access the greenhouse. So that is really key. So we can go to the next one. So proposed parking. Existing, there are 4 stalls on site, and there's 2 stalls on the road. The applicant is proposing to provide 6 stalls. This is the new configuration. You can see that they've removed the carport from the front of the structure and are providing 4 stalls on I think it's the north side of the property there, and then 2 on the south. So while only 1 parking space is required, 2 additional are provided. Go next. And they have done a little rendition of what the screening and privacy fencing would entail. And the brown line along the bottom shows the privacy on the low side of the structure. And they've looked at including this type of fencing as well. So including screening and privacy for adjacent neighbors and beautification of the site. And the rain and stormwater management is captured under the deck that you can see looking towards the back, as well as on the right through the engineering drawings where the water is put through the stormwater runoff system. So from that perspective, the Wittich Environmental Services report concludes that development will not affect the current system in place and that no change will occur regarding the volume of groundwater entering the site or the current successfully functioning retention system. And from the rainwater reuse perspective, they say that with the installation of a water collection system, the water entering the retention field will be reduced. So no net loss, basically. And with that, our staff recommendation is that Council authorize the issuance of a development permit for 6689 Goodmere Road and development variance permit for 6689 Goodmere Road as proposed in the report.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Are there questions from Council? Councillor Berger, then Ray, then Loggins.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. I was down at the site today with Councillor Ray, just wandering around both the neighbor's property directly below as well as the Parliament site. We knocked on the door, but nobody was there, so we sort of trespassed along the back. I hope you don't mind. So my questions for staff are, what is the height of the platform?
It's just over 2 feet.
Okay, so it'll be a 2 feet off the ground?
Yeah. And because it's just over 2 feet, it requires a building permit because it's a public space and it's commercial.
Okay. Yeah, that's a question for, well, when we were there, it looks like it's pegged out by, you've been on the site recently? It's pegged out by a yellow rope.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, that's quite high, that yellow rope. That might be a question for the applicant once I'm done asking.
Sure, might be better.
Staff questions. So 2 feet height for the platform. And then I also had a question with the privacy screening that goes along the property on Goodmere? Am I on the wrong street?
Horn.
Horn Road, sorry. What's the height of that privacy screening?
Have you determined that? Do you want to ask the applicant when
Oh,
she
sure.
comes up? I think that would be better. The exact height, I think, is negotiable. Still at this point, the point is that it makes the neighbors happy. I don't think the applicants are really concerned about adding it. They just want to make sure that everyone's pleased with what the outcome is. The bylaw, I think, is, I don't want to say it offhand, actually. It might be 1.5 meters.
That's the maximum height or minimum?
I think I can check, but I'm pretty sure it's 1.5 meters.
Yeah, I think it's 6 feet. I could be wrong too.
Yeah,
Is the
I
maximum
think
height
so.
of a fence?
I should double check, but I think it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ray?
Yes, it's along the same lines as Councillor Berger. And I guess one of the things that we were trying to attempt to visualize on that site, in that corner, it was roped off. And we're just trying to figure out if that rope, where the rope sits, which is about 4 feet from the current ground level, if that's the top of the platform. Okay. Because if you do that, with the distance and the setbacks being relaxed, you'd need a 10-foot fence to make sure that you couldn't see the people's
So with the
inside
4
their house.
feet plus the 6 feet on top of that is what you're saying?
Yeah, especially if you're right up against it. So there's some questions that perhaps Ms. Rice might not be able to answer because I don't know what the applicants have done.
Okay.
We just need to understand where it is, because if you're further back, it offers the privacy. It all depends on the fence and how high that platform is from where the ground currently is.
The applicant is here this evening, so we can invite the applicant to address council. Councillor Loggins?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Rice and also the applicants for going back and having those discussions with the neighbors. I saw the letter in there from the neighbor who was concerned about the privacy that was just south of the applicants, and it's good that to see that everyone worked together, and it's kind of a nice little community building piece on top of everything else. So I'm really happy with the work that that you've put in and that everyone else has put in as well. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff at this moment? Okay, I'd like to invite the applicant forward. If there's anything that you would like to add, or perhaps if you could just answer the councillors. We're looking for some clarity around the fence.
Yeah.
I might need my contractor to come with me. So the whole, where you measured from is not at the ground level. We've dug down so that we still have to build up. So it looks like it's quite high. The only way you can get wheelchair access in there is to draw it all the way to the end of the property because of the grade. At this point, they have no privacy anyway. We have pictures shown that we sent Danica this afternoon. So this actually will not impact any more negative because it's mainly just an access. It's not a sitting deck. Nobody's going to be out there like sitting and drinking. So this is the corner that you'll be looking out. This is where the view, like the deck comes. That's the corner. That's what we get to look at, by the way. Nice, eh? Big pile of wood. So the lines are wider when you're looking not this side. That's the side that Mr. Marshall faces, and Mr. Marshall is here tonight to approve our design. And I hope you haven't changed your mind, Okay. Anyway, he's impacted on the west side of our property, so he's here to help. If we could go, so this is the view from our deck, right, Ed? Yes. That's the view from the existing deck. So that old fence will all be replaced, and then we'll try to keep it open because we want people to enjoy the view lines, but we also have the neighbor that's directly in front, so if we can swing the slot right there, that will all be green fence, which has been working for them from now on. If we can go over a little bit, one more slide maybe. Their property,
That's the piece there.
actually, where that telephone pole is where their rental property ends. So that decking actually sits off of where their rental property is, if you know what I mean. So if we build a side screen, they're actually going to gain more privacy from that corner than they have now. Because of the way the landscape drops, it's impossible to give everybody down there 100% privacy and maintain views. So we've tried to come up with a compromise. We've talked to them about coming when the decking is up, because we have no choice at a 5% grade. The only other thing we thought about coming to you for on a variance is a 10% wheelchair grade. But that's not fair. We have clients in wheelchairs already and walkers, and we're one of the few businesses that supplies that, and people find us because of that. And I want to continue that. So my husband and I have angled every aspect of this property to get a wheelchair access and 2 extra parking spaces. That's the corner it works. We need that full length to get that height, because it starts at, I think, is it 8 foot at the top of the hill? 6, like from the top of Goodmere down. So at a 5% grade, if we don't stretch it to that front corner and swing back up, there's no other way. Other than a bridge in the middle of the front yard, and that would be a nightmare. Okay. You can only imagine, and then nobody has privacy.
If I can.
Thank you,
Your
Ms.
Worship.
Fisher, yes.
Would it be okay to have the dialogue back and forth, because the questions that are going to come from Councillor Berger?
It should feed through
Okay.
me.
Okay, so then my question is, my understanding is that this fence that is currently there was not the original fence, that they in fact did have quite a bit of privacy. You
No,
had
not at all.
6 foot.
Oh, that was like old and falling down every windstorm. That fence was down. So we kept, where you see the mermaid, we kept that because that area was where I wanted privacy for them as well for years. So we took out all the rotten fence. We had to have something for the deer. We put up green fence because it's much nicer looking out your kitchen window at a green fence than a big compound. So when we added that mermaid, we kept the solid until we could, and they're happy with the green fence. They prefer it.
So
it's very confusing.
So when Councillor Berger and I were there today, and we were on the gravel part in that corner, like where the current ground level is, right?
Well, it's not. It's
well,
not
where we stood,
Okay.
where we stood, right? If there was a barrier, greenery or something, that would probably be enough for privacy. My concern is that when I stood there, if that area was being raised significantly for some sort of platform, people who are using that corner for your commercial business have a direct view into their bathroom if the drapes or the window coverings aren't there, as is the kitchen and as is the corner window. And I appreciate that, that their property is considerably lower. My concern is if you start raising it too high and you want to get right to the back of the property, there is not a lot of privacy for the people who are down below. And that's a residential lot. So just trying to figure out how much higher it's going to go.
It won't go any higher. It can't go in. We are at the height we need for wheelchair. That's it. We're not building it. If I could go without this added expense, trust me, I would.
Okay.
When I first dreamed about this and know it's a good idea, I stood in my yard, as anybody here would go to my yard and go, oh, you should just be able to come right along and scoot right where you between my 2 garden beds. It looks like by the eye that is just as easy as can be. Until you get a husband and a landscape architect out there with a laser, and then they go, That is not wheelchair access. And with commercial, what do? We're stuck. We're really stuck. So that's why we built a nice set of stairs that's going to come at the beginning, because 99.9% of the traffic is going to use the stairs. But we have to have a wheelchair access.
Yeah, no, that gives me better comfort knowing, because the way it looked with some of the markings, it looked like you were actually going to be more higher than, like, about the size of your
It's
concrete little
overwhelming.
wall.
It is.
But it's not going to be that high.
Well, it's the height we need to go. It's we're still a foot where we have to fill with hard pan, or that's what it's called, right? Whatever, you know what, road base.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's 3 feet from the road base, which is 1 foot, which is why we're in the variance. So Ed took pictures from the deck, because no matter where you are in our yard, that house has no privacy unless I build a 20-foot fence. That's from my deck looking down. No matter how big we build a fence, we'll never make them happy.
And that's just for access to the. It's not like a tea place or where a bench or sit.
No,
Like,
this is just.
Well, I think it's because at one time it was called a viewing platform.
Yes, and
then I
Danica
think-
clarified that
yeah.
tonight. We both oversaw, when she sent me her notes, I didn't pick up on that. We would not put this much. I've got 2 beautiful decks. Why would I build another deck? It's strictly to get wheelchairs and buggies, parents with babies. It's easy access, and it's the law.
Yeah, parents. Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. And through you to Ms. Fisher. So, sorry, just for my own clarification.
That's all right.
That yellow rope that we saw, that's where the deck will be?
Pretty close.
Okay. And
Not as wide, though. Sorry, Bev. It's not as wide.
Okay.
It's not as long, I should say, to the east.
To the east, okay.
Yeah.
And speaking to the neighbors, your neighbors are fully supportive of this nursery. They
Well,
think it's
Mr. Marshall's here, so he'll
Yeah.
have his time.
And even the neighbors that are here in this White House, we stood in their backyard and spoke to them as well. And they're supportive of it. They think the greenhouse is a lovely idea. They think the improvements to your yard are a lovely idea. Their concern was just that there would be some sort of greenery or privacy
Of
privacy
course.
screening.
That's what I'm all about.
And when we left their property, they said as long as it were to the Mermaid, that you've got a wood slat there just below your Mermaid, as long as it were to that, they were happy, because they also understand that there's not a lot of privacy with any of those lots because of the grade of the land.
The grade of the land,
Yeah.
and and so that was our issue. So am I allowed to speak so openly? That was our issue going into this, was to get wheelchair access, and by the eye, like at one point, one of the neighbors came, you could do this. I thought so too, but that's not the way it works with that laser.
So my next question then would be through maybe back to Mrs. Rice, is I didn't see any wording, just going on what the neighbors had said, because we are looking at, and I explained to the neighbors too, I don't work well in feet, even though I'm born and raised here in Souk, in meters. We're looking at 13 feet that we're looking to vary. And so when in talking to the neighbors, like I said to Ms. Fisher, they're happy with the development and the improvements. They just want to make sure that there is some sort of greenery or a fence and privacy screening that would be there. There's lots of talk of it in the report, but is it somewhere, am I missing it somewhere that it says along that property line? We can just give those neighbors some comfort that there will in fact be privacy screening there?
Just checking the zoning bylaw for commercial properties, they can actually go as high as 2.5 meters for fencing. So I don't know if they would really want that, but they could have that.
Right, yeah, and again, the neighbors were happy with where that board was below your Mermaid, and I think it looked around 5 feet to me. I didn't have a tape measure.
Well, we have to consider how, when you're standing on the platform, you have to have safety fencing above it. So I believe Ed was thinking 6 feet above the deck.
Okay.
Now, we also have to keep deer out of there. I have no profit. I might as well just shut the doors the first day I'm open, because that's the whole.
Right.
We've got to think about that as well.
And again, through you, that was, it sounds like you're meeting the concerns of those neighbors, because that's what they vocalized to us today.
I always
Absolutely.
have.
And so then again, from through you to Ms. Rice, is there wording in here that gives them comfort that says that there will be privacy screening, whether it's greenery or along that lot line?
Ed redrew it. We, through the development permit, we can have landscaping. It is listed in the schedule, and so the screening can fall into, and fencing can go into that section.
Okay, so for my own comfort and with our conversation with the neighbor, I just like to see that wording be in there relating to their address below. So thank you.
Councillor Parkinson?
I would like to say I'm pleased with everything that you've brought back to council. You've addressed a lot of the issues, and it's really great to see that your neighbors are all in line with this. And I would like to make the motion that, or the recommendation, that council authorize the issuance of development permit for 6689 Goodmere Road.
Okay, that was moved and seconded, as noted on the staff recommendation. We were going to call for any public input. Would you like to do that before we vote? Or would you like to just call the question on the motion? Councillor Casper, then...
Well, no, I think we're obliged to get public input because we've provided new information. So I think we have to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I would like to welcome, is that what other councillors were asking? Okay.
I wanted to speak last in case there was other concerns, but I won't be able to now. So.
Well, we can see, like, if there are any outstanding questions, then we'll welcome you back. But we'll, at this point, just see how the conversation with the public members go. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. At this time, I would like to invite any members of the public forward. Council has moved and seconded the recommendation as provided by staff. If anyone here would like to, however, speak to any of the new information brought forward tonight, we would like to welcome you to come forward. If you could please come to the microphone, sir.
Eric Hilt, 6696 Goodmere Road.
Welcome.
Mrs. Fisher says that they're allowed to park in the church parking lot and relieve theirs. Well, they've been parking in the church parking lot, and the people for the church parking lot, which they have activities all week long, are parking on the street now. And I don't think that's right. And the parking that they got there, the 4 spots that they got now, the only people that use it is their own employees. So what's the use putting 2 more parking spots in there? The public don't use it, or their customers don't use it. It's too hard to get at. So I can't see it. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to the variance?
Steve Marshall, 1961 Murray Road. I'm directly beside them. I've known the Fishers since they first put the hair salon in there, had no problem. They're great neighbors and whatever. And I encourage you to, pass their thing. The only problem I have, like my neighbor, is the parking. The parking is absolutely atrocious down Murray Road and the surrounding, and I put it all on you people for allowing the parking to get the way it is. There's the condo complex on Horn Road that has 31 units and 31 parking spots. Well, they all have 2 cars. They park at the bottom of the hill in the parking lot provided for the people to go down to the walkway. So that's full. Then they park up Murray Road. I can't get in and out of my driveway on dates because the road is parked or full of cars that are going to whatever they're going to. The church was allowed to keep the house that the minister was supposed to move into, never ever moved into. That was supposed to be a parking lot after the church burnt down. Now it's a rental unit, so there's more people parking in that area. And according to the provincial government, on the bylaws, on road widths, to have parking on a road, the road has to be 32 feet wide. Right in front of my house, from my driveway to the sidewalk across the road, it's 19 feet wide. So you can see once you park a car there, I'm having absolute difficulties to get in and out of my driveway or down the road. Last weekend or the weekend before, I was out and an ambulance was going down to see somebody down on the end of our street, which most of the public or the people that live down there are over 50 years old, so it's going to be a frequent occurrence. They have a heck of a time getting down the road. If a fire truck has to get down there, you better send a snowplow down in front of it to move the cars out of the way so he can get down. So the parking is just, it's abysmal. And I don't put it on the Fishers to provide more parking. You people or your predecessors allowed that to develop in that whole area. It's a main thoroughfare to your walkway that people love to go down and fish and wander along, but there's no place to go to put their cars. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other members of the public?
Okay, Diane Bernard. My resident is 2108 Penang Road. I am also a business owner, and I own a property at 2105 Otter Point Road. And I, too, have a small business, and I, too, have neighbors. And I'm sensing a different tone and attitude towards this commercial operator, and I think that that's excellent on the part of council and the staff. The questions were answered, and the presentation is much more improved over the last session that the Fishers had to go through. I think that supporting small businesses in this town is critical. Council has to find a better way to do that. We need that tax base. This is a long-term commercial operator. She has an excellent reputation. She has been down there in a place that has, as far as since I've moved to Souk, since 1979, the desire to have that area be turned gradually towards a more commercial operation has long-standing plans here. It's been part of our local area plans. It's part of your strategic plan. So to build that path, to keep it smooth and efficient, and to encourage that there needs to be some improvement along that. This proposal is perfect. It's clean. It's green. It fits in with the residential. She couldn't have picked a better proposal in which to expand her commercial rights and her commercial property. And she's been doing it and bending over very significantly to accommodate the residents in the area. That I think that council needs to really support her, support this type of this. This is the way we want Souk to go. And you're the leaders on that. Then we have to, councillors have to visit those properties, staff have to assist. All these little questions have to be dealt with very efficiently. It's onerous on the commercial property owners and business people to be having to predict every single problem or issue. I just want to be callous, but when someone wants to come in and develop a piece of property and put up a bunch of houses, it's a different ballgame. But if it's a commercial business, which Souk's future really depends on, it's always a mess. It's messy. So I would really urge that council support this because, and I'm glad it sounds that way, the tone has certainly changed, and to look for ways and means to support more of this so that Souk can grow and grow healthy and get those taxes and the tax base that we are desperate to have. The issues around parking, it's the 21st century. We have to look at not just more parking. We know that there are some short-term solutions that can be found, but the long-term has to be towards getting people out of their cars. The church is down there, and it's got cars up and down the public road, and it already has a parking lot, then it needs to figure that out and stay inside their parking lot. And that she's providing the parking that she's required to. And thank you very much for your time. I would urge you that you support this, and let's go find some more businesses who want to do the same thing.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Other members of the public?
We'll just need your name and address for the record, please.
2087 Dover Road.
And your name, please?
Shelby.
Thank you. Your surname?
I just wanted to... Oh, Fisher. Sorry, my adrenaline's going now. I just wanted to say that we have talked to the people who work at the church about our parking, and they're totally fine with it. And also, like, people who go to the church, they've parked on our property before, and it hasn't been a big deal. You just gotta work with it. That's basically it. I don't think it's been, like, we've never had any kind of battles or anything. And I'm an employee. So usually that's who they go to, besides the boss. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other members of the public? Okay, so I'll turn back to council. There's a live motion on the floor. We've received some further public input. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. I just have one more question to Ms. Rice. I just was looking through the report one more time just before we vote on it, and it refers to Schedule C, Landscape Plan, and is that page 19 as well as page 115 in ours, where it talks about all the plants that will be planted and stuff?
Yeah, it's sort of a combination of the description of as to what was going to happen there, because they were reusing a lot of the established plantings and they wanted to have some flexibility for the placement of it. So it's mostly the comprehensive list then along with the site plan, and then putting everything else back into place.
Okay, thank you. And my only, and again, I like I said 2 weeks ago, I think this is a fabulous idea, and I love what you're doing to your backyard, and I love how you're enhancing the neighborhood. And again, I'm just looking at the comfort of the residents that live at 6692 who also support it. But so I'm looking for that wording of the privacy fencing that will be constructed.
Yeah, and so that was prepared for our first presentation a couple of weeks ago. Since then, in my presentation today, there was an illustration showing the screening, and there's also a site perspective of that. So I can combine the three of them to form that landscape schedule, and that will be a part of the development permit Schedule C.
Okay, excellent. And that's all I was looking for. Just seeing that there's wording in there that there will be either green fencing or whatever Ms. Fisher sees fit, because it'll benefit you as well. So,
okay,
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Loggins.
I'll be supporting this motion, and I want to thank everyone who commented on it as well. Especially those who were concerned about parking, because it is definitely a very big issue in our community, and it's definitely something that council will be having to look at in the future to make sure that these issues can settle down quite a bit, and perhaps in those discussions we can bring forward some more green initiatives as well.
Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I want to echo Councillor Loggins' statements too around the parking. I think as we transition from a rural kind of background to our urban core that we're going to get, and that development, and that's what's going to happen down in that area. So we have to be cognizant of not only the parking but the drainage issues and the services that go along with that. So it's incumbent upon this council and future councils and staff to be mindful of all those challenges that are going to come up. This is a good example of when when an applicant comes forward and is willing to work with the staff to come with a proposal. But also, what I heard was goodwill towards the neighbors. And I think, and that's really, really important to me to sit up here to be supporting this, is that there is a community spirit out there that's making things work. So thank you to the applicants for the way that you've approached this, and to our staff. Thank you.
I would just like to share, for the comfort of council and members of the public, that our CAO and I have been having conversations about parking and drainage in the town centre, so that as we transition and we build out our core, that it's not a surprise that we have to deal with every single time. It's an obvious one that we need to work towards, and our CAO has been working on solutions for the area for both of those aspects that I think will help streamline or support commercial development in this area as we realize our plan. It's outlined in our strategic plan, and our CAO has already been working on it. So we look forward to those sorts of reports in the time to come. Sort of a technical question for our corporate officer is on page 108 of the agenda, where it shows the proposed site plan. We're seeing it here on black and white, and so I'm wondering, on the screen it was in color, if there's some way that as the reports are uploaded through a legislative, if there's a way to bring them in color, because then I think it's easier to read, and some of the questions that our council had might be more clear because you can see, you can just differentiate in the lines. And some of the pieces, there was a page that was signed and there was colored ink, so that's why I'm wondering if there's a way for the rest of it to flow in color.
We're actually moving to a new software package just in the next couple of weeks. One of the challenges with our current software package is because things have to be scanned and then put in. So that's been kind of an issue. So the new software package is going to create a lot of efficiencies for us, but it's also going to allow us to do more color agendas for council. So we can certainly fix that going forward.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so on that note, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you to the applicant and to staff.
Recommendation that council authorize the issuance of a development variance permit for 6689 Goodmere Road as proposed in this report.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so on that note, we're going to move on to RA2, the Rhodonite Eakin drainage replacement. There is a recommendation here with the report that council approve Main Rhode Island Contracting LP as a successful proponent under the request for quotes for the Rhodonite Eakin drainage replacement project.
Move recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. RA3 is the CRD draft regional growth strategy. There is the staff report here in addition to the draft CRD regional growth strategy. The recommendation is that council recommend that staff prepare a letter to the Capital Regional District with the key issues identified in this staff report and any other concerns identified by council in order to provide feedback on the 2016 draft regional growth strategy. So it is a working draft. I believe the deadline is May the 18th, and there are some items listed. There is the motion as stated, or are there other items that council would like to bring forward? I think from previous discussions, what I recall was about the water and water extension throughout the district. We've had presentations and notice of motions to that effect. Councillor Raylan Loggins.
Thank you. And just for clarification, I want to make sure, because it is around the water, that your comments do speak that so this regional growth strategy will allow for water outside the urban containment centre to all of the district of Sooke that's identified in the OCP.
After considerable research and considerable discussion amongst staff and the previous correspondence going back and forth, yes, our recommendations within the regional growth strategy is the area of Sooke be facilitated with community water. That is one of the strong recommendations as itemized in number 3 of the staff report.
And just a follow-up question, and I think it's really important in terms of what's discussed in item C, Sooke as a rural community, and in terms of sort of the view that the CRD may have in terms of Sooke. Just food for thought in terms of perhaps adding to the information that does go in the letter. Just as a reminder that in the census that came out in 2011, Sooke was a 17.9% growth over 2006, second to Langford, and I believe that was for the whole island, not just the South Island. And looking at the stats, that Surrey, that came in number 5th for the province, was at 18.6. I would hazard a good guess that Sooke was probably in the top 10 for growth in the province. And I just think that often when you have statistics like that, it lends a bit more support to your argument. And I think it is an important argument for the future of Sooke. So thank you.
Councillor Loggins?
Thanks. I just wanted to speak to that one as well, where it says the recommendation is that the Sooke Town Centre should be characterized at minimum as a future growth node and preferably as a major centre for population and employment. It's important that we do get recognized, I think, as a future growth node because we will have such a huge jump in population. It's inevitable. And also because we're lacking in a lot of services already. So with increased population, we're going to be seeing a lot of strain on those services, especially in healthcare. And I just want to make sure that that second piece is definitely recognized, which is where it says that Sooke should be characterized as a rural community with a strong economically viable core, because we still want to make sure that that the services we're offering reflect the population, but also cater to Sooke being a rural community.
Thank you, Councillor Loggins. It's very important because with the work that the primary health services group that I chair has done, there's such a push for Sooke residents to access Langford or Greater Victoria for health-related services. And it's not just that, it's for employment and everything. So I really like this language. I just wonder if should is strong enough. It almost should be Sooke must be characterized as a rural community with a strong core, because to continually group us into Langford, or you can get these services in Langford, takes away the employment opportunity, our growth, livability, quality of life, all those pieces when we are pushed that way. We have to remain and have those pieces independent, I feel, to properly grow as a smart growth for many different reasons. So if it's possible, and if council's in agreement, I would like to have just the should replaced with a must, to have it stronger as this goes forward.
This is the first brush that we had on it, and that's what we came here for, was to get feedback. And I don't have a problem putting must instead of should. But given the characterization of the draft RGS itself, I was sort of feeling the waters which direction you would really want to go on that, but I don't have a problem doing that. So.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to see that. I think it's just important to come out strong, because sometimes when I've been at the CRD board, and Councillor Casper will know this, it's often, you know, you're rural, you should stay rural, you can come in and access the core. Well, no, that isn't the case. And it's not reasonable to assume that everyone can do this drive. It's important that we develop and have that independence out here for ourselves and for the future benefit of our community.
And just to follow up on what you said, I completely support that, because the big issue especially for nonprofits is when you start to pull away from rural and become more of a city type focus point, then that loses a lot of funding. When really, because we're so physically removed, population aside, we're so physically removed and have such a lack of services, we really are, and I agree, must be characterized as rural.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Pearson, then Berger, then Casper.
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Howitt, did you see any boundary adjustments that were proposed in the RGS to us? I guess that was what my question, because once we adopt this RGS, and there's that one little statement in there, it takes unanimous support of the board, right? Unanimous. There's no to make any adjustments. So is there anything in there that you saw? I mean, I haven't seen the exact.
The drawings, or excuse me, the composite drawings that were in the RGS don't show any boundary changes.
Okay.
They show the city core, or the city core that we have.
Right.
But the language surrounding about it being a major node isn't there. That's what's missing.
Right. And that's what scares me a little bit, because, you know, in our OCP, we've identified that we want water to all boundaries of the municipality. And you know that we've got that little piece, you know, there's a little thing that's being projected right now to go at Otter Point to our boundary out there. And I'm just worried that somehow that writing gets lost when it gets to the board, that, you know, they've got a different picture than we do. I want to make sure that we have that. That's my kind of 2 cents worth.
I can strengthen the language around the water as well. But the emphasis in the RGS was not significantly around the water.
Yeah.
But it took us a little bit of time to massage the wording, because again, we didn't, as from staff perspective, we didn't really know the specific direction and how strong you, as council, you wanted to be on this, but we can make it strong.
Well, and through the chair to you again, is we don't want to have another Peninsula Co-op situation, right? And that's what happened. That's live, right? And that, so, okay, thank you. I prefer it to be stronger about us controlling our own destiny than sitting in front of a board.
Just keep in mind that this letter that will be going after probably a few iterations by the time we get through it, is going to the board on or before May 18th. And from my understanding from that, it will be put forward to the full board for assessment and recommendations from that perspective. So whoever is going to be sitting on the board at that particular time on behalf of Suk will be able to make, or I assume will be able to make, recommendations that are further stronger or whatever direction is chosen at that time. So,
okay. Thank you.
Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. And reading through this, I got sort of mixed messages within their own document about what rule is. I mean, it was sort of playing both sides of the coin for me. Like what I'm hearing from, you know, the mayor at this table is that we need to be exclusive but be able to grow so we can have our own commercial center. But that's not what I'm getting out of the document. I mean, if we look at page, where's my first, sorry, bear with me, I just need to look at my first mess on here. Page 154 of the document, there's a paragraph that says, excuse me, to support quality of life and community character in rural areas with regional growth strategies, establish policies to reduce development pressures in rural communities and contained urban areas such as Sandus Peninsula, rural West Shore, Suk, and Wanafuka. So to me, that says they want to hinder our growth. So if we say, yes, we want to push to be rural under their terms, we want them to hinder growth and commercial growth within our community, is what I got out of that paragraph, which I don't support, because we do need to be that hub for the West Shore, farther the Wonderful Electoral area, as far as Port Renfrew and Jordan River. I think that, for me, I think we should establish a bit, I mean, I'm not a big box fan, so don't think that's where I'm going, but I think we deserve to have our own services within our own community. And then again on page 155, their last paragraph, says something similar. The regional growth strategy sets out in policies 1.2 blah, blah. Areas remain rural in character with development potential restricted to density and subdivision limits identified in official community plans. So to me, I felt like it was sort of talking on both sides of the coin, and I don't know that my personal feelings, I don't want us to be able to be restricted. I want us to be able to be a community node, or they've got so many different terms in here, it's hard to pick out which one we fit, but I'm not 100% certain that we are a Highlands or a Machosen that wants to restrict everything. I think that we need to be able to have the ability and flexibility to grow our commercial area so we can service our own population. So with all due respect, I'm not sure that I agree with really enforcing their term and definition of rule within this document? I mean, I guess there's no question because it's all our interpretation.
If I may, the term rural, if you go through provincial legislation, the term rural does not have the same meaning as the word rural used in the RGS. And they use it about 6 different ways. And what we can do is when we're crafting the letter to go back to the CRD, we'll make sure that rural, whether we use that word or not, we'll make sure that it's calculated to make sure that they know what we mean by it. Because if you take rural from the provincial legislations, it means unincorporated.
Right.
So they're not even getting that right. So we'll be cautious when we craft the letter.
Yeah, I found it a bit difficult to understand where this document was, I don't want to use the word pigeonholing, but sort of pigeonholing and laying a stake on where our community should be. And in reading it, I wasn't happy with the sense that they were calling us a rural area with limiting our growth, limiting our potential to be self-sufficient. I mean, I agree with the mayor in that we need services out here that can service our area. We've got 15,000 people roughly from East Sault to Jordan River to Port Renfrew that we should be able to service. So I guess my comments through you then are maybe to work, as Mr. Howitt just said, look at their definition of rural, I think, is different than what we're saying. We want to keep that community feel, but we want to also be able to service our needs in our community and have, some commercial growth within our town center. Thank you.
Councillor Casper?
So this has been going on for many years. And what the key thing that I think is that was removed from the current RGS, which is proposed in this draft, is using water as a development tool or growth tool. And there was finally some agreement around the board table to not have water as a development or growth mechanism to stop growth. And that came at our insistence when we did a letter last year saying that we would not approve anything unless that was removed. And the Juan de Fuca area presented a similar position, as did a number of directors. So, I think that's key. One thing, just to give everybody some assurances, I think it's important to emphasize this urban area or nodule, if you want to call it that. It's pretty hard to put these handles. For Souk's concern is this: we have a sewer system, we have water services in that core urban area. No one can stop us from rezoning properties and developing land within our municipal boundaries. The RGS strategy will have no control over what we want to do within our area. So I think it's important to get that recognition anyway, that everybody else wants a little nodule or whatever you want to call it, a growth area or a little, urban center that's sub here, and Souk should have the same thing, the same recognition. This is a first run, and no doubt when all the comments are in, it's going to be all over the map again. I'll tell you that right now, because you're going to get councils who are going to stick their oar in the water, and rightly so, because everybody has a right to take their position. And then hopefully there's going to be some common sense around the board table to actually look at that and to try to come up with something where people can actually agree at. Really, that's what it boils down to. Because, the reality of the court cases that occurred in the Lower Mainland is that all the municipalities, through their OCPs and their zoning, control everything they want to do. Nobody can stop it at all, ever. A regional district can't stop what we want to do in our community. The only thing that could stop any jurisdiction from doing something, either expansion or enhanced development, is water. And because the provision of water being taken out as a growth tool or stopping growth, that's key. And our argument was this, that Metchosin is got a lot of water, and they are probably the most zero growth municipality in the capital region. And they have a lot of water servicing all these huge tracts of land, but it's not being developed. So it's council decisions, zoning bylaws, and official community plans that are developed locally and enforced locally that control growth. And, you know, we have to be mindful of that. So hopefully, you know, I agree, strong wording is important, and we have a strong voice presented there by way of a letter and presentation. So I think it's great.
Councillor Ray, then Loggins.
Thank you. And I guess one of the things I recall when we were doing the notice of motion on what Councillor Casper was speaking about the water, there is under the official community plan the regional context statement, and it's tied to the urban growth. And I guess one of the things is to make sure that, given what our vision is that context statement, because I'm not quite sure that context statement is up to date in terms of where we are in 2016. I just drawing it to our attention that maybe that's something we need to look at as we're going through this process with the regional growth strategy to make sure that they're in sync.
Okay. Councillor Loggins?
I think that Councillor Berger and Mr. Howard were going in the right direction. I still stand by that we need both of those phrases and should keep the must in there as well. But I think that by having that discussion and bringing it up, bringing forward that we should be recognized as a growth node, but we're also rural. We could almost take the stance that we're redefining what rural is because no one else really knows what our situation is. So at that level, we can say this is what our rural situation is. We have a potentially, a strong economic viable core, just like it says in the package here. And that will grow, and that will change things, and we need services to accommodate the growth. But we also need to be characterized as rural. And I think that's the way that the people of Souk feel, and I think that's the way we feel around the table. But the key piece that Councillor Berger brought up is that's not reflected in the document. So if we can have that reflected in the document and have the CRD board understand what our definition of rural is, then that might be a way to frame that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a few drafts before we get there, but it's a work in progress and it's a living document. Okay. So there is a recommendation in place here, and that's council recommend that staff prepare a letter to the Capital Regional District with the key issues identified in this staff report and any other concerns identified by council in order to provide feedback on the 2016 draft regional growth strategy V.1.5. And I think I've already read that out, but I'll call for moved by Councillor Loggins, seconded by Councillor Casper. Any further discussion on the motion?
Staff's got our kind of views for the draft.
I have the word must written about 6 times here. So I think I've got it, and I also like Councillor Loggins' statement about redefining rural. I think that's a really good statement that I could work into the letter. I'm not too sure how yet, but I'll work it in. Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Next item, RA4, Souk Program for the Arts recommendations. This came out of the SPA committee. There are 2. So the first one is the Canada 150 Mosaic, and it's recommended that council withdraw from the Canada 150 Mosaic project and that staff send a letter to all submitted artwork and return their renderings. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Drew Johnson. I'm the chair of the committee. We had initiated work on this Mosaic 150. Just to go back for people's memories, this was a project that was, I guess, initiated by council prior to the reinstatement of this committee. So when we first started up the committee, we decided, well, let's take, obviously we started working on this initiative, and we had an artist on the committee look into what specifically would be involved with this. This is a private company out of Edmonton that is marketing its services to a number of municipalities in Canada to create an artistic mosaic in celebration of Canada's 150th next year. So we had initially gotten involved. We had the cost was $10,000, which council had put aside money for, and put a deposit of $2,500 towards. We had an artist on the committee looking at just exactly what was involved in this, and basically there was a number of logistical barriers and some other financial costs that we just didn't feel were reconcilable. And for example, we need a location, probably for 2 months, to be locked up in the community where you would paint these 400 tiles and have whether it be senior citizens or school kids or whoever come in and do these and be on display, be protected, be out of the elements and so forth. It's just not doable in a community in Souk to lock up a public space for 2 months. And that the Legion, the fellow looked at the Legion, he looked at Seed Park, he looked at the community hall, and generally it just wasn't feasible. The other part of it was that once you've got this thing constructed, you have to place it somewhere. And if you're looking at an outdoor location, you're looking at a significant cost to protect it, put an acrylic cover or some kind of covering over it, and so forth. So he estimated that it could cost another $5,000 to $10,000 beyond the initial $10,000 cost. So for these recommendations, the logistical difficulties, and the cost overrun that we'd anticipate, we're recommending that council withdraw from it, and that we did have 23 submissions from artists in the community that were advertised for a theme for this mosaic. Not a strong response according to our artist expertise on the committee. But nevertheless, it was 23 people, and we thought if it is council that we would write to each one of them, thanking them for their interest and explaining to them that we're not proceeding. And I guess a further element is that when we reviewed the service agreement that the district had signed with this private company, there's no mention in it about a non-refundable, the deposit being non-refundable. And given that the company has not provided any services to us in any form, we haven't asked them for anything, they haven't performed anything for us, I think I would recommend that the district seek a return of the $2,500 deposit.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. I appreciate the report and your presentation. Any questions from members of council? Okay. Councillor Loggins?
Kind of disappointing, but thank you for bringing that forward. Things like this happen. Is there a way, do you think, or does the committee think that the artwork could still be used for something else to celebrate the Canada 150?
We never had any of the materials delivered to us, so there's no kind of wastage of tiles or any artwork done to date, so there's no problem with
Thank you.
proceeding.
I think just what I'm hearing, though, is that there's some that have submitted artwork, right, for a potential idea for the mosaic. So is there some way that theme could be used for a different project or of a different nature?
We could hold on to those submissions as a theme for artwork if the committee comes forward with further ideas to council here to celebrate Canada's 150th.
It would be nice to see something in our community for the Canada 150. It is significant, so I'd like to hear what other members of council say, but it would be nice to find a different way to celebrate that event.
This somewhat
whether that artwork or something different, I don't know.
This somewhat relates to the next recommendation we're going to talk about the terms of reference. And I think in there we I think we'd like to think of the terms of reference as being more proactive and coming forward to council with ideas, and it could very well be come forward with an idea for the 150th anniversary for the town.
If I could ask, between I'm just looking for what the difference is, like what has triggered the draft terms of reference compared to what was already as the existing terms from 2015.
Right. Well, one of my first roles as chair was to look at, well, what are the responsibilities of the committee and what are the draft terms of reference say? And I realized that none of which the committee was doing was included in the draft terms of reference. So that was some motivation to rewrite them. I think that's my old habit from working for provincial governments. But so what I did was look at the other municipalities, Esquimalt, Saanich, Sydney, to look at what kind of arts policies do they have, what kind of arts advisory committee structure do they have in their municipalities. So I think when the committee was reinstated last October, November, I don't think the terms of reference were updated or reviewed at the time. So we're coming forward with new terms of reference based on what we've seen in other municipalities that we think will be more proactive for council. Council can, again, still terminate this committee in a year at its end of term and bring it back 2-3 years whenever council feels like it. And I think the terms of reference will still be relevant at that time. So I think that was the impetus, and I think now the committee is going through a kind of a transition and going to look at what can we come forward with for council and for the community.
Councillor Casper?
Just to remind me, when did the terms end for the members?
The committee, our first meeting was in November, so it would probably end. I guess our first meeting was in November 26th, I think.
The idea would then to either strike a new committee or call for new volunteers or whatever the process is going to be, along with a new terms of reference, correct? Is that what you're hoping?
Well, I was hoping that we could operate under these existing terms of reference, or the new terms of reference, and that way we can go and look at the existing policy, which we think is out of date, and that's the brief time we've had a look at it. But I guess probably halfway through our mandate here is to start fresh.
But to carry forward with the same
But carry forward, like Communities in Bloom is an existing initiative that will carry forward with the same composition, the same deadline.
Okay. Councillor Ray?
Thank you. Just a thought in terms of the draft terms of reference. Just that I think that there should be some work done between the comparison in terms of what was before and what was now. The thing that caught my attention was in the committee responsibility administering the Sauk Arts Reserve Fund. So I think there's things in here that need to be reviewed in terms of policies that exist with the District of Sauk. I think it's always good to review terms of reference and keep them updated in terms of where we are and what we're doing, and I appreciate you taking the initiative. I think that we do have to have that lens of making sure that everything is in line. So I would like to move a motion to have this go back to staff and work with Mr. Johnson in developing a new set of terms of reference for the SPA committee.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Casper.
Could I just ask a question? Is it possible for us to deal with the other motion or the recommendation that we withdraw the applicant or that project and get our $2,500 back?
We can go back to that because there is a motion on the floor right now, so we can.
I just want to make sure they're separate.
Yes, yes. So this first one is basically, as Councillor Ray stated, that it would be where our corporate officer did have his
hand up, so just looking for,
No, Your Worship, I was just going to confirm that we can work with the chair of the committee and come up with a comparison for those two.
okay, so we do have the motion, and that's to refresh the terms of most. So is there any further comments or questions regarding the terms of reference? Councillor Parkinson?
So when we bring back the terms of reference, would the policy come back at the same time to review so that it's all together or not?
The policy on the the arts policy?
That's certainly possible. Obviously, a policy review is going to take longer than just a terms of reference comparison. So it really comes back to if the chair of the committee wants this to move ahead and wants the committee to review the policy, which was my understanding from talking with Mr. Johnson. My personal feeling is that's probably a good thing for the committee to be doing, to review its own policy, because that's really what drives it. If that's okay with council.
Yeah, we would like to review the policy because we think there's some things that need updating, and the existing terms of reference just talked about developing the policy. It's already been developed. We're just suggesting review it and update it.
Okay. All right, so that'll be, I'll call the question then on on the terms of reference going back to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And then once we sort of vet those terms, then the policy will then follow. I would then like to draw council's attention back to the first piece, and that is that council withdraw from the Canada 150 Mosaic project, and that staff be directed to send a letter to all who submitted the artwork and return their renderings and receive the, request the return of the deposit for the project.
Yes, staff will be doing that automatically.
Okay. Would someone like to move that?
I'd so move.
Councillor Casper will move that, and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? It is disappointing, but I appreciate once you've sort of gotten into it and then seen how it goes, and of course, location of the mural was always something that we were sort of wondering where it was going to go, so it kind of answers that, I suppose. Councillor Pearson?
I'd just like to say thanks for digging into that and bringing it to light. So it's disappointing in a way, but you know what? It's good. It's good that we found out.
Yeah, it was a key timing to do this. Either we went ahead and struggled, or we said let's withdraw. So thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Our corporate officer?
Your Worship, just something I mentioned to the committee the other day, and I'll mention to council. Because this is a private firm, they happen to be marketing this to the Canada 150, but they do this all the time. So if for some reason you decide you want to do a mosaic 2 or 3 years from now, you can still do that. Okay. This is just pulling out now because council didn't have all the information initially. So that the option's still there in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much. One thing I would like to just make a suggestion to the committee as you roll forward is a project is our town center itself. The landscaping is coming along under staff's guidance, but there is a need for street furniture, whether it's attractive benches, bike racks I get asked about all the time, even something just to draw people. I know that right now there's work underway, so it's not really a place where people are gathering, but the intent is to create a more of a gathering place. So if there is a way, rather than having just your standard bench and your standard sort of rake bike rack, of having something more artistic, because the comment I always get is that we're an artistic community, but you can't find the art. So if there's a way to incorporate it into the town center and to those essential things that are needed, it's just an idea.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be exploring in the next meeting and the future meetings, is some new initiatives like that. One of the ideas that we were tossing around was, for example, the side of the liquor store. We talked to the leasing manager. It's a potential art palette there. We could put a mural on of some sort for a few years until they decide to build or whatnot. And it could be in a style of graffiti art, which is a younger kind of art form. But because we're actually a younger community, despite all of us being retired on the committee. And so we're going to be talking about some of those initiatives.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Our next item of business, reports for information. We're moving in, RA 5. The appointment of our deputy corporate officer. There is just a straightforward recommendation that council appoint Patty Rear as our deputy corporate officer.
Your Worship, The motion was actually supposed to be different. This was the motion that's in the package was the original one, but I had changed it, but somehow it didn't end up in the package.
Okay.
So this is just a slight difference of that, basically saying that the deputy corporate officer acts in the absence of the corporate officer under Section 148.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Ray. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Ray?
Sorry. Just addressing Ms. Hall's comments. I'm not sure that we need to do anything other than this because we're just replacing one deputy corporate officer with another.
I can confirm that, no, Ms. Hall was incorrect, that we don't need to do this in a bylaw. In fact, I was talked to other corporate officers who said it's definitely a good idea not to do it in a bylaw. By doing it by resolution is fine. And that's why the difference in this motion states that the deputy acts only in the absence of the corporate officer, who is an officer underneath the bylaw and required under Section 148.
Anything else? Councillor Parkinson?
Can you just let me know when Patty Rear is to start work?
I am very pleased to announce that Patty will be starting with us tomorrow morning. And I can tell council she has an impeccable background, and I think she's going to be a great addition to the district.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Now we're moving to the reports for information. Is there any, under RI1, any mayor and council reports? Okay, Councillor Parkinson.
As you all just heard, we had our SPA committee meeting, which was on the 27th of April. And besides the Mosaic project, we also had a presentation by Paul Unwin, and he came forward with a wood carving project, and that would be his eagle that he carved in the back corner there. He is presenting to a lot of the organizations around town, the Rotary, the Chamber. He has sponsorship from the Royal Bank, and he is looking to do a sculpture for either the John Phillips Park or for where the new library is going. And he's looking at doing a wishing pond, and just so the mayor knows that he would like to put a town clock in there. Anyhow, he has projects that are around town, and a number of his projects, there's one at the Chamber, there's one here at the district, Eve Grove, the signage there, and also the Lanning Creek Park sign he did. So if anybody's interested, we are working on Communities in Bloom. We have the Chamber and the Harbour House online, and we have to confirm getting the Sea Park bus. And then on Thursday, the 28th of April, I went to the Chamber collaboration meeting, which was an overall vision for all community groups and individuals to work together, to have a central registration website and newsletter and quarterly meetings. Elita was there, who gave a presentation on the Salmon Festival for the 150th celebrations, the grant applications that went out for street banner competition, the pageant of history of the area, and a smoked salmon competition. The Chamber is going to have a 2-day festival in October, partnering with individual groups. And they've formed a Promote Suit task force to pool resources to work more effectively. Joint promotional events. The Chamber, the Museum, and Fine Arts are working together to promote Souk with full-page spreads in the Times Colonist. On Saturday, April 30th, I attended the Rotary Club annual spring auction and fair, attended the opening ceremonies, and worked at the district booth. There were excellent conversations had there. There were a number of questions on garbage disposal, roundabout and downtown beautification, parks, sidewalks were the main issues for me. On Sunday, May 1st, I attended the VE Day Battle of Atlantic Parade. I attended the breakfast and then just watched the parade and took pictures. On Wednesday, May 4th, was the Historical Society Board meeting. There was discussion on the insurance claim for the tree that damaged the museum, the roof. They've had 6 roofing companies come look at it, and they still haven't selected someone that is able to do the work. They're The Steam Donkey project is a project that they're working with the Lions Club members with. They've secured logs and they're now being stored, and they're doing improvement and clearing needs to be done for the area where they're going to install it so that the public is able to view it upon driving into Souk. The entranceway to the Souk project, which John Farmer came and presented to council with a couple of times, that has been shelved for the time being until there's more concrete information on who owns the equipment that's on the side of the road. The night market has 41 applications. There are 2 left that are available. There's a room for 43 vendors. So that should be coming up soon. And Saturday was the first day for the country market, and there was a great turnout of community support, and there were a number of new vendors there as well. And also on Saturday was the 8th annual Biker Blessing and Thunder Run, which was held at the Knox Presbyterian Church. The pastor, Gordon Counenberg, is not only the pastor of the church, but he's also the pastor of the fire department here, and he also rides a very big motorbike. He blessed all the bikers, and then they rode off to Jordan River. And last year there were 85 bikes, and this year there were over 130 bikes there. It was totally amazing. And I'd just like to say Britt was also there in her motorcycle gear, getting on her bike and going for a ride too. Thank you.
Councillor Loggins?
Yes, please watch out for the bikers. I think that's a cool event.
It was
Nothing
amazing.
too much to report other than the Rotary auction, awesome as usual. But one thing I did want to remind everyone is that this Wednesday, May 11th, is Census Day, so if you haven't already, please complete your census. As you can tell from the discussions tonight, the information is very important. Biased opinion from someone who works for the census.
Councillor Casper, any news to report?
No, I gave a
No?
pretty extensive report last time, and
Okay.
I thought I'd give everybody a break.
Excellent, thank you so much. Councillor Pearson?
I too attended the Rotary auction. It was a great event. Lots of good feedback from the public, and it was exciting to hear people being excited about the CRD land purchase. So, and a lot going on there. So, that's it for me.
Councillor Ray?
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, I attended 2 executive committee meetings, one for the Vancouver Island Library Board and one for CREST. And I was disappointed not to be able to attend the Souk Rotary auction this last Saturday. It's the first time I've missed it, but I was out of the province, so thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Berger? Okay. Okay, a couple of updates from myself. Next week on May 18th, our CIBC branch is going to be celebrating its 60th anniversary. So from 11 o'clock till 3, there's going to be a bit of a presentation on the history at 11, followed by cake. So that'll kind of go to 3 or until they run out of cake, is my understanding. The Horseshoe Club is gearing up for their grand opening. Their ribbon cutting ceremony is on June the 4th at 10:30 in the morning. So I'll be there to throw the first shoe. And then attend the UVic graduation ceremony, or not UVic, our EMCS grad ceremony, which will be held at UVic. Will follow that. I spoke at the last meeting about the Souk Region Health Summit that is coming up on May the 28th. As you know, that's a line item in the budget this year. And I would like to invite members of council to attend. It is open to the public and all community members and association from the Souk region, including all First Nation communities. You're very welcome to participate, contribute with views on how to improve our region's health and well-being through our own initiatives. Our keynote speaker will be Dr. Richard Stanwyck, the Chief Medical Health Officer for Island Health. He'll be setting the stage with a talk about community health. This will be followed by 4 rotating roundtable discussions about healthy communities, helping ourselves, helping each other, medical services and infrastructure, and community advocacy and engagement. The associations will be invited to sit at certain tables to contribute in the discussion, and there is a concession stand which will be hosted by the Journey Middle School Band. So a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of planning with a lot of details. All the items on from X-ray to seniors issues, youth and child mental health, community spaces, food access, Passion for Action, all of these things will all be occurring on that date. So I would encourage, if you're available, it's on May 28th from 1 to 4. And I look forward to seeing you there. All right, so we're going to move on. Actually, I would like to invite our CAO if there are any comments. I tend to always move right on and forget about you, and I apologize for that.
Thank you. Just a couple of things that I've been working on that will be coming to a council meeting soon. One is with respect to the parking issues we've been experiencing on Murray Road. And I've been doing some investigations, and it looks like we've got some cooperative relationships starting to form there. So that's really encouraging. I'm still working with the library board to move forward with respect to our partnership agreement with respect to building our new library. The tentative timelines are to be having it built in September, October 2018. So that's it for me for right now.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to move into RA2, which is our Public Boat Launch Community Services Agreement. We do have a staff report. We heard earlier from our delegation, and Mr. Martin, thank you for sitting patiently through this meeting. And as well as in the yellow package, there's some information here. So any questions from council in regards to the report? Is there anything from staff that they would like to add to the report? Okay. Councillor Casper?
Is there a motion needed, or is it just receipt of the report?
Well, through this, the staff has given notice to end the services and to look at it. So at this point, it's just a motion to receive the report for information. And then we heard from our operator, former operator, there is a desire to continue the existing agreement, but to also work with staff to come up with a different form of agreement. Councillor Pearson.
Well, I don't know why. I guess, and I know to the new CAO and to Mr. Blackhall, I know you guys work hard on all these things. It seems that we talk about this at the exact wrong time of year every year. So, fishing season's going to be on us in any minute now. And I'm already seeing boats already launching and already starting to line up on the road and things like that. So, I heard from Mr. Martin tonight. So, I know that there's always some challenge around this. It's our utility. Are we getting the best use out of it? Or is having an operator put us at arm's length? Or having our own staff going down there, and again, we get into this whole debate of and this has been going on now. This is about the 5th year in a row that we've been talking about it, right? We have some intrinsic. I used that word twice tonight. We have some challenges there that, through no fault of this council or previous councils or even the staff, that we've built in, around parking and access and where do we store these trailers. So I don't know what the answer is for this. What I do like, and from the fishing community, is that it's been well looked after and well maintained over the last couple of years, and we've just sort of gone and piecemealed this contract out to Mr. Martin over the last couple of years, and it's worked reasonably well as a user of the service. So, and as a member of the public, I don't hear much complaints about that piece of the operation. I do hear complaints about the ticket machine, and people can't get their money in there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're afraid they're going to be towed away, but that hasn't happened. So, what are we looking at to do here? I guess, yes, through you to the CAO.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sorry.
I'm not a you.
I'll speak a little bit. With all due respect, through you as the chair.
Through the mayor to Councillor Pearson, staff have terminated the contract. The reasons are outlined in the staff report. I think it's important for council to separate the issues with respect to the fishing derby as opposed to operations of the boat launch. And staff have recognized through the service reviews we've been doing on all our service contracts that it would make more sense to have this work done in-house. And so with all due respect to the former operator, the fishing derby in our minds are completely separate from the terms and conditions outlined in Schedule A of his contract.
Councillor Casper has
Yeah,
moved
I'll-
receipt
I'll-
of the
yeah.
report.
I'll turn my mic on. I will move that that council receive the report for information.
Okay. So moved, and it was seconded by Councillor Ray. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Pearson.
That's my story. What's our backup plan to having no operator at the boat launch as we start fishing season?
CAO.
Through the mayor to Councillor Pearson, we are going to have staff taking a look at going down and to collect the money and to do bylaw enforcement with respect to parking. The operations of the boat launch is, I can look at towards staff, but we're of the belief that we don't need somebody down there full time. And the whole parking issue we're working on with respect to Mr. Butler and him allowing us to use part of his lands to be cleared for parking so we can get the parking off West Coast Road, because it is a public safety issue.
I think what I've heard before is that there's a concern just with the hours, the prime times that the boat launch is being used, so typically weekends, long weekends, early mornings. Usually it's an early start to get out and an early finish. So if there was any congestion or issues or ticket failures and the like, are there, how do we manage that when sort of our district operations is in a sort of set 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, not working weekends and holidays, is how that fits?
Your Worship, we staff are currently talking about the hours of operation for our bylaw, and for some other considerations, we're doing a service contract review on our parks contracts, our parks maintenance contracts, and staff will be coming forward to a mayor and council with some suggestions on varying the standard working hours for those folks that we might be bringing in-house. So we could look at, Thursday to Monday or different working hours for these people so that we do have coverage on the weekends and in the mornings.
Okay. Councillor Ray?
Yes, and I know I agree with Councillor Pearson. This conversation has occurred for many years and always seems to occur at this time. I just looking at the numbers, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we're looking at paying out $6,000 more a year because the difference between the expenses and the income that's coming in or the revenue. So am I reading that right? Are we losing $6,000 a year? Okay, I'm seeing an agreement. So I think there's some offsetting of, that's taxpayers' money, tax dollars that are funding that $6,000. So I'm in agreement.
Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to echo my fellow councillors in that this topic has been, as you and I know well, for the last 6 years, been tossed around, and it always seems to happen at fishing season. But looking at the background, when we first decided to enter into a negotiation to have an operator, we all felt a little bit unsettled, that council of the day, and that's why it was a one-year agreement to see what does this look like for the district. Now where we are here today with we're going to bring it in-house, I'm sort of, with all due respect, I'm taking that same let's see what this looks like approach to it. So for me, I think if we run it through this season, then at the end of this season, the district then can look at, was that feasible? Did that work? Was there positive feedback? And if not, then we can go back to putting it out to RFP and finding a proponent. So for me, it feels like the second piece to our original discussion. Our original discussion was none of us knew what it would look like, how things would work with a contractor. Now here we are, we don't know what it really is going to look like, and it's a trial with the district. So in fairness to the contractor, I voted in favor, and we had a contractor, and I think he did a great job. And I think if staff's recommendation is that we try it and I'm going to take that as a year trial. And I'd like to see us review it after the year to see if it actually was beneficial, and if not, I would like to see us go back to a contracted basis if it doesn't work.
Councillor Pearson?
Well, you know, I hate to. No, I don't need to. The history of this boat launch it has to be considered too, you know, and that's the other part of this is that no one else was willing to take it on. We didn't really want to get into the whole unionized employee thing and all that, you know, and it seemed like it was onerous at the time. So we had only one person ever step up and say that they would do it. So, you know, we tried even putting it out for contract. I think we got one other bid or something, and there was somebody who was there? Yeah. But so anyways, I don't know. I guess to me it's worked. I don't know. And then I heard Mr. Martin tonight talk about the fishing derby, and I recognize it is two separate issues, but he thinks it's one issue, right? So as the operator, he's trying to tie them together, you know, the viability of the dock and the use and things like that. So I think it's important that we recognize it as an economic generator as well. It's not just about the operating piece of it. It's actually quite complicated, the whole, you know, what revenue comes in and what comes into our town through that boat launch. So I'm not really comfortable without a plan. And I know it sounds like we sort of have a plan, but I'm not comfortable thinking that we're going into this at fishing season without some concrete plan. I guess that's my comment.
I think just the other piece is we're kind of going into fishing and wedding season at the same time. And I know that the wedding piece is handled by the Prestige. But they're right side by side together. So there has to be, you know, I have heard the odd complaint. Maybe Councillor Parkinson would know this as well. But while the bride and groom are saying their vows, there's all this noise, revving of motors, and I don't know if it's deliberate or not, coming from the boat launch while this beautiful ceremony is going on because they're right there. So the two do, even though one is, and yes, it is by the hotel, but at that point, like, who can call a point of order in the middle of a ceremony to get this noise, and then this is not any, this is, well, that's, you know, that's the district, you know, it's just an awkward one. So, you know, I sort of hear and agree with Councillor Pearson just going into this, right? It's the timing right into fishing season, right when the hotel is booked with weddings, and there's a lot of activity there all at once. It's, it does make me a bit nervous. To our CAO? Okay. Councillor Parkinson, then Casper, then Ray, I believe, in that order?
I think that prior to this, didn't Jock's Dock look after the boat launch first?
Yes.
And then I'm not sure what happened with that one, and if it didn't work out, they're right side by side. So I'm not sure why we changed from that. And okay. And whether that would be an option as well. That's all.
Councillor Ray?
Thank you. I guess my thinking is that we've entrusted our senior staff to do a review of the service contract, and I believe that they understand what the issues are and that they will see to it that the matters are taken care of. So I'm trusting the staff to address what's been raised here this evening.
Councillor Casper?
Well, I would like to concur because I sort of look at it this way. We had asked our senior staff to actually conduct a review on all our service contracts to make sure that they fall in line with our strategic plan. And I'm of the view that that the vast majority of the public will in fact comply with paying their fee to launch their boat. My only suggestion is that if there was better signage or larger signage that clearly identified that it is a requirement and that there will be strict bylaw enforcement attached to anyone who does not pay or have a visible sticker or a certificate or document in their dash, then it can be cited as an offense. And that's not to show any disrespect to anybody who's from the fishing community. It's just business. And the same happens in other jurisdictions where you have to pay your money into a meter to get a privilege or a parking. I just want to make sure that we give staff the support because they've come forward with a recommendation. They haven't just made this recommendation out of the clear blue. It's my understanding that it has been in the discussion loop for a period of time, and these are the conclusions they've drawn, and they've taken in my view, the appropriate action, because if you look at that $6,000+ difference, you really got to scratch your head. And if staff feel that they can do it with less cost impact to the district, then it's a winner from our side. Because I think that's critical, because we're spending how much money this year on capital improvements for the boat launch? $20,000?
Yes, through the mayor. We've got 20 to 25-ish, I think, we had an engineering report that recommended sort of an estimate, and that's built into the 2016.
So I think we have to be mindful of that this is money that now we have to spend on that boat launch on top of what that loss is of the 6,000. Okay, so that's money coming out of the system, and basically taxpayers are paying for it. And if you've only got 22 net coming in, you're really behind the 8 ball. So
okay,
I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Logans?
I agree that I think that staff, I trust that they will look after this and make it a good, viable solution. And hopefully we get that review and it has gone well after a year. The one issue that I saw happening was with the fishing derby and making sure that still runs. But I think that it seems like this derby has been a huge event and it's raised over $100,000. So it seems like it's something that people have put a lot of time and energy into. And I think that having planned many events, when people put this much effort and time and passion into something, it will happen. So I'm certain that this will, regardless, this will happen.
I can speak a bit about the Derby. I've been involved with it in the past. It's different from the usual Derby. It has been in Souk for over 10 years. It's not where there's one person that gets a huge cash prize. There's a number of different, there's a prize table, and it started with some engineers that just enjoyed fishing and just started getting together, and it started to grow and grow and grow, and there is over 300 people participate in this every year. It's a 2-day event, so there's always a pre-party at the Souk Harbor Resort Marina. Families come for the entire weekend. So it's an annual event. People there may be an engineering firm that's locally in Victoria that has an office in Edmonton or somewhere else. They all come out and participate. And then there's a certain entry fee. Some of the engineers donate their time in their boat as skippers if you don't have your own boat or you can't, or all the guides, because all of our local fishing guides are also completely booked to take people out as well. And then there's a big weigh-in, there's a barbecue, and then you go and pick a prize off the table that's donated. So all of the money that's raised through sponsorship goes to a local salmon enhancement initiative, whether it's Charters River or to our hatchery or to salmon enhancement. It all goes back. So it's not like one winner ends up with this huge $10,000 cash prize he takes home. And so with those that have been involved, and there's a handful, every year they're calling and getting the sponsorships, they're getting all the prizes, they're calling each engineering firm, like, donate as much swag as you can, whether it's the mug or the hat or whatever. So that's why it's a unique derby in that regards. And then the group, for whatever reason, and I've
put it forward to the chamber, like, why don't you guys get a bit more involved in this? Because I'm not seeing a lot of local people involved. And it could be because it's in the summer when most volunteers actually would like to take the day off, the time off, and go fishing themselves rather than be involved in something. And so that's where there's burnout at the volunteer level. Can we keep doing this year after year after year? Now, I tend to agree with you that often people do want to hang on, but I sort of wondered after the last couple of years as to where it's, just the future of it. It's a big event for Sooke, just with the amount of people that it draws. And then as a result, other people think, gee, this is a really nice place. We had no idea Sooke was like this. We're going to come back and do this. Oh, there's a wedding. Let's get married here. Like, it just goes on and on and on. Very friendly group. A lot of local developers of ours that participate, and I've seen people from all over there year after year. So that's why very exciting to Derby. Yes, Ms. Sullivan.
Yeah, through the mayor and just to the rest of council, it's not that staff disagree with the Derby. We think it's a great economic driver as well. Our issue is with respect to the service agreement and the terms and conditions therein. And we need to keep the two separate because they are two separate events. And fishing derbies are huge economic drivers. I do not disagree at all.
No, I hear you on that. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion then, and that is to receive the report? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Pearson is opposed. Carried. Okay, so that leads us into new business, of which there's one item, or two items. NB1 is the Alberta Fire Appeal. Actually, if you just look at the very last page, it's in regards to the tragic events in Fort McMurray. So our CEO has brought this forward, looking to see if we would like to make a matching donation through the Red Cross. Councillor Logans?
Just wondering for how much that would be, if there's an amount put forward or if we just come up with it and then they match it. But I think it is certainly important. I know that at the school district level, we're already seeing students coming from Fort McMurray into our community because they don't have a school to go to.
Yeah, wow. So I think at this point, it's whatever donation council wants to do. Would this be drawn then from council contingency? Would that be where the source of it would come from?
Yes.
Okay. And then it's matched by both. So the federal and Alberta government both match it. Is that how I'm reading that? The federal and Alberta governments are matching individual donations. So would that be that, like 5,000 would become 15,000?
Yeah, I think that's what it said.
Okay. Anyway, Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. I just have a question. Seeing that this came from the acting mayor of Vancouver, and he's president of FCM, do we have an idea of what other municipalities have done thus far?
No, we don't. We just received this late last week, so we haven't had an opportunity to canvass other municipalities.
Okay. Someone like to recommend an amount? Or does our Director of Finance?
I would just like to add we do have a collection underway already up in the fire department and downstairs. There's a booth on the counter that people can donate into. So.
Sorry, a booth?
A boot.
Oh, a boot. Okay.
A fireman's boot.
A boot. Okay.
And I would like, personally, I'm going to donate, and I have my money right here. So.
Well, what a leader you are.
And I challenge our other staff to match it. So. That's a personal check.
Councillor Parkinson?
I would like to make a motion that council matches whatever they collect.
Oh, okay. So this would be
Get
collected fully in the boot, including what in addition with what Mr. Blackhall's check is going into the boot.
That's correct.
We're
So
all
whatever
staff.
they
Okay.
collect, I would like to see us match it.
Okay. Councillor Berger?
Well, I can jump on the excitement of that, and I think that's exciting. I think we need to, what's in our council contingency budget, we do, and not to be, looking at the other side of the coin, we do have to be fiscally responsible with the fact that this is taxpayers' dollars. I am in support of us making a donation. I'm just not certain that this. I'm not comfortable saying that we would support whatever our district or match whatever our district raises.
Okay.
But there was a mention of the boot on the downstairs floor, and this is webcasted. People come in tomorrow morning. We do have a bottom line that we're responsible for, and that is taxpayers' dollars. So
right.
I'm not in favor of that particular motion, but I would be in favor of us taking $5,000, turning it into 15 through the already matching legislation from our council contingency.
Councillor Parkinson, because
and we could say that whatever they collect up to a maximum of $5,000.
okay, was there a seconder to that motion? Seconded by Councillor Loggins. So the motion is that the district match what is collected into the boot up to a maximum of 5,000.
No, that boot's going to get full.
That's good.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Our CAO, Ms. Sullivan.
Just one final point. Mr. Blackhall raised a great point in that he's personally donating, and
Yes.
staff will be personally donating, as will members of our community. So I would challenge our own council to also personally donate.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Councillor Pearson,
just as a
microphone.
Oh, sorry, just as a comment. So, the Alberta Fire Appeal, it says that it's going to be matched by the Alberta government and the federal government. Would that all be going then into the same
Red Cross.
Red Cross? Okay. Under the municipality's name, I guess that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll call the question on the motion then. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, NB2 is our CEO update. Was there anything? Okay, caught that earlier. Excellent. Okay. Next is correspondence for information. CI1 information and correspondence from April 20th to May 4th. I would just like to draw council's attention. There's a letter from April 22nd to improvements to electrical vehicle charging in Souk. I have forwarded that on to the CPark manager that's going to bring it to the commission. Just in conversations and the emails that I've gotten, CPark may be a good location to host something given the hours of operation, the public washroom facilities and the like. So that'll, if it hasn't already gone, the commission will be coming its way in addition to this. So anything forward out of the correspondence? Motion to our corporate officer, please.
Sorry, Your Worship, just to bring your attention to the letter on page 229 from the Victoria Regional Transit Commission. Just making sure the council has seen that. They're asking for endorsement one way or the other, and if you're not, I can send a letter to them indicating you're not in favor if you'd like that.
That was the gas tax letter.
Yeah.
I've signed the gas tax. Like, we did draft and do a letter to Minister Fassbender supporting the increase.
Okay.
Okay, so this then is to send, it's adding a copy of that letter to the commission? That's sort of, or am I not reading this correctly at all?
If you've already sent a letter, then I can make sure that that's forwarded.
The letter?
It was supporting it.
It was supporting it. Yes.
It was conditional on the service improvements.
Yes.
Right, I remember that now.
Yeah, so then it's just having the letter that I've signed go to the Transit Commission.
Okay.
Yes.
And we'll make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you. All right, then a motion to receive, please. Moved by Councillor Parkinson, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, opposed, motion's carried. Pardon me, and I believe that brings us to a full motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Parkinson, seconded by Councillor Loggins. All those in favor, opposed, we're done. Thank you very much.